I'm too overweight to be a plus-size model. I've always been on the heavy side, especially compared to my perfect goddess-like younger sister and mother. And calling them goddesses is no exaggeration. My mother's mysterious brown eyes that have a bit of gold in the sunlight along with her year-long tan matches perfectly with her wavy blonde hair. Her strides, her posture reminds me of an elegant dancer, and her laughter draws you in and brightens your mood. My sister, Margie, is nearly a mirror copy with the exception that her smile is more similar to my father's. She's incredibly talented with sports and music. With all the attention she receives, you would think that she would grow up into one of those stereotypical mean girls. Instead, she remained gentle and kind to everyone she met. Even in high school, she made sure no one was left out at events and parties. As for me, I got my father's crooked nose, crooked eyes, and large ears. Golden hair was the one trait I received from my mom, but the color looked more like straw. I was also very obviously overweight even as a child, and to those who are quick to judge, I was simply big-boned according to the doctors. Apparently another thing inherited from my father's side. I couldn't exactly say I was adopted, but I was definitely disappointed. And although my parents never showed it, I'm pretty sure they were also disappointed when they first saw me. The more Margie and Mom lit up the room, the more I felt like a shadow of their existence. A piece of furniture was worth more than I was in their presence. To be more precise, I was a wallpaper that made them stand out even more, but I could never hate them. God, I could never hate them. In fact, I loved them so much I wanted to be them. I just wanted to experience what it was like to show up to a room where people felt excited to see me. So when I had a chance to feel beautiful, it felt like an absolute dream. Because of the inclusive movement happening in the modeling community, more and more agencies opened their doors to the non-size zero men and women. On the day of the audition, I created a quick portfolio and headed straight to the studio. Inside, several women ranging in various shapes and sizes sat on the floor of the studio. Surprisingly, there were also very thin models in the mix, which made me double-check if I was auditioning for the right gig. After about 10 minutes of waiting, the judges entered the room with only pens and poker faces. A brief introduction was given about the gig, the sponsors, and the requirements. Then numbers were slowly called over to be observed, 3 at a time. I was part of the third batch, and their feedback was honestly brutal. The moment I stepped in front of their eyes, they tried to hide their look of disgust, as if I had the audacity to show up to a modeling audition. All the confidence I built up quickly left my body. I introduced myself and forced a smile. Midway through my introduction, the older woman with glasses raised her hand to signal a stop and ask for my weight. I'm AUS 17. Actual weight? She asked me in a tone that seemed angry. 154 pounds. This place has no room for you, and I mean that quite literally. I was shocked, leaving the studio immediately without hearing the rest. Even more embarrassingly, I managed to say thank you before running out. Thank them for what? For telling me something I already knew and felt all my life? I felt incredibly stupid. Don't cry, a woman called out while smoking outside of the studio. They're picking skinny women and putting them in fat suits. They just edited it out to make it look realistic. I stared at her, not really sure how to respond to that kind of information, especially after feeling devastated just moments before. She handed me her phone with pictures. I'm a journalist. We've been tracking down these auditions, collecting names of the discrimination cases, like a sort of soon-to-be-cancelled list. Apparently, real plus-sized women weren't appealing with their rounded faces and double chins. It was easier to open up the auditions to appear inclusive and then choose the skinniest people of the group to place into fat suits to fill out their clothing exactly as they wanted, tiny waist and zero double chin included. The thought of it infuriated me. Then a day later, it inspired me, and a month later and so on. It motivated me to come up with a very real and very inclusive market for women like me. Women with straw hair, women with crooked ears and crooked noses, big-boned women, women of color, men who want to wear women's clothing in a size and shape that fit them well. And I would model all the clothing to sell. I would take any and all models, because if there's no room for me or anyone else, I'll make the room.